Hello, good afternoon, everyone. How's the Josh? All right, let's get excited. Let's get excited about sustainability, climate sustainability. I believe climate change and sustainable growth is a topic that everyone knows is important, must be discussed, but doesn't really want to know too much about. I mean, who wants to think about a future where the world is in flames, we run out of water, it's difficult to live? So we put that out of our mind. But behind the scenes, there are people working to avoid this future, which is why we need to talk about economic development with sustainability and what are the ways to do that. Mahesh, I'm so glad for the opportunity to talk to you about this.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I truly believe it starts from how business is conducted. That is the way to begin. And now, let me come to the Indian context, where in 2021, at the COP26, we set a goal of going zero net emission by 2070. People thought, how will that be achieved? In your view, can it happen? Can India afford to do that? Because we have businesses that need to grow fast, not necessarily think about their carbon footprint.
Thank you, Tamanna, and pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I think there is no choice. Few years back, you would have thought net zero is a good thing to do, ESG is a nice thing to talk about. There is no choice. You see the disasters of the environment happening all around. You see the air quality we live in.
Yeah.
You see the impact that the energy crisis, as we are going through, which is having on various nations in the world. I genuinely believe there is no choice. And I think the government of India has done the right thing by putting the 2070 ambition at COP26. Is it easy? No. But do we have a choice? No. We absolutely must run. I would use the word accelerate. We should accelerate our journey towards that.
Let's talk about the context of where we are in the world right now. We're in the middle of a massive geopolitical crisis, the biggest after COVID-19, and it's impacting energy and the availability of energy around the world. I mean, it's a situation where European nations want to condemn Russia, but can't say we won't buy your gas. There is no option. Has this issue accelerated and made more people recognize the need for sustainable alternatives? I mean, in India, if we're stuck importing expensive crude, it tells us we need to step on the gas.
Yeah. I think the current geopolitical situation has further worsened it, but even the pandemic has taught us about self-sustenance, our own independence. For a nation like India, probably which will continue to have one of the best GDP growth rates in the world, this is much more important. And again, I think the 2047 aspiration of energy independence, energy security by ourselves is very valuable. And the geopolitical situation has taught not only to the European nations, but a lot of countries around the world that you better look for your own sources of renewable energy, where you don't have to depend. Some of our neighbors, Tamanna, are going through very difficult situations because of the energy dependence that they have for their imports. So the current geopolitical situation, but also the pandemic that we have gone through, has really told us that now is the time to accelerate all the efforts for self-dependence.
You know, the thing with sustainable energy, and when we talk about sustainable energy, it's something that everyone, every major country, every corporate loves to come and say, I believe in sustainable energy. But when it comes to implementation, the problem is, who's going to pay for it?
Yeah.
How are you going to fund something which is definitely going to cost you more? Where do you think is the solution for that? Is that where you come in?
Yeah. I think the solutions will need policy, solutions will need technology, and solutions will also need significant funding. The energy transition from fossil fuels, India today has roughly 70% power generated from fossil fuels, which means 30 from non-fossil. And for that 30 to go to 50%, Government of India wants us to be at 50% by 2030. I think all these legs will have to do their bit. We do a lot of bit in terms of technology. We bring the onshore wind, offshore wind technology, which is renewable. We have hydropower solutions which are renewable, and we have hybrid solutions which a country like India can use. But also, there is an effort that is going on in the world, and our nation will benefit with some of the work that is happening for funding. We will need significant funding. Some estimates speak about $10 trillion that will be needed to achieve the net zero ambitions that we have. My answer, Tamanna, is I think all these three pillars will have to do their bit. We are doing a lot as a very responsible corporation with 130 years of high-tech industrial technology leadership, but there is an element of funding and there is an element of policy. When all these three run fast, we can achieve the acceleration.
Just to get your thoughts on funding in a little more detail, because this is where the geopolitics come in, right? To put this very simply, India goes to some of the most developed nations in the world and says that you have been polluting for much longer than we have. We are just up on the trajectory. You need to pay to enable us with those technologies. That is then met with resistance. What are the other ways indigenously newer companies which are coming in can ensure that their carbon footprint is not growing as they grow?
Yeah. I think there are three elements. One is that you increase the renewable energy, so the future is cleaner, future is better. But we also have to keep in mind, we do have significant emissions from the fossil fuels that we have today. Yeah. And there are actions that could be taken even on that. The air quality improvement, the emission reduction, there are technologies which can also bring that. And when you look at the new companies, when you see the growth of the companies that are doing, I think there are a lot of technology options which they have, which would not have been there 10 or 20 years before. You can talk about the hybrid technology, you can talk about the renewable, you can talk of wind, solar, you can talk of hydrogen now. So I think there are enough avenues available for these companies as they look to have a cleaner, carbon neutral, or a net zero aspiration accompanying their growth.
You know, the issue I think that India would be perhaps facing, so for example, right now there is power shortage in at least 12 states. We need to import very expensive coal, which is considered a dirty fuel. We don't want to, as a policy, invest in more thermal energy plants, right? Because we want to cut down. But there is time before we can go sustainable. So what do we do right now?
Yeah, it's a great point, Tamanna. We have fossil today, 70%. Hypothetically, tomorrow morning, it cannot become zero. There is no way. There is a bridge to be crossed. And the philosophy that I would propose is you have fossil fuels today probably generating 70%, but you have wind and solar and hydro that can come up, and tomorrow hydrogen will also be there. There is also an element of natural gas, Tamanna. Natural gas assets in India can be a good bridge and complement this transition from 70% fossil to the 50-60 renewable that we want to do. So one would offer a combine of keep reducing the fossil footprint, leverage the natural gas solutions that you have, and natural gas, the assets that India has, can burn hydrogen fuel, Tamanna. You don't need a new technology. There are technologies that we have today in our gas turbines which can do 50-60% hydrogen burning as of today, and we are working to take it to 100%. And then you have the renewable energy. So I think this is the mix, this is the bridge that can take us to the desired cleaner future tomorrow.
Do you think there is enough robust policy support? We've had a new hydrogen policy which is unveiled right now. For example, even retail consumers, if they put up solar plants, they're being incentivized. But on the other hand, we want to make all the components here. So we've increased the taxes for what you bring in. Do you think there is enough clarity in the policy? And what are the challenges you see going ahead?
Yeah, I think the policy that has come out is a good start. There will be further evolution. Hydrogen is a new technology. We are evolving, and the technology will find new solutions. But the other piece which is important is made be the renewable energy aspiration of the 500 gigawatt by 2030.
Yes.
Or made with the hydrogen policy that we want to implement. One important thing that the nation will have to embrace is a faster speed of execution. Just having some of these aspirations is not going to take us to achieve those goals. So I would say the policies are very progressive and they are most welcome. But the speed of execution is something we can do much better if we really want to accelerate and reach to that 500 gigawatt goal.
We're talking about energy in a broad segment, but I also want to diversify into some of the other very interesting work that you've been doing. One of them is in aviation. ATF, again, and the high prices of ATF have sunk many an airline, but the economics aside, SAF is something that, GE has been working on. Can you tell us if there is a part to sustainability? Because that is a question even green activists face. If Greta Thunberg is going to fly to, a conclave to talk about a cleaner future, is that really fair? That's the question which comes up. Where can you step in there?
It's a great point that you bring up, Tamanna. We focus on innovating for a sustainable future in 3 large industries. First is leading the energy transition, which I spoke about. Second is developing the future of flight, which is decarbonized. And third is enhancing precision health. And let me just touch upon the aviation for a moment. I think India is going to be, by all projections, 3rd largest passenger aviation market very soon, which is great. The markets will grow, the technologies will grow, but at the same time, we have to be mindful of the CO2 emissions and the fuel, the aviation turbine fuel that we use. So there are technologies today, the engines, the aviation engines that we put on the flights that we fly, already have some significantly improved efficiency and CO2 controls. But we are working with our French partner CFM, whereby there will be a program, we call it RISE program, which will have a breakthrough technology for sustainable aviation. And that will bring down 20% fuel consumption. That will bring down 20% CO2 emissions. And we definitely see that as a huge opportunity to impact the environment positively.
By when would this be a reality?
Yeah. So the RISE program is something that we are working. We believe the aspirational goals of 20% CO2, 20% fuel, the aspiration is 2050, we would be able to achieve that. In addition, there is second element of sustainable aviation fuel. So the biofuels that are available will also potentially bring the CO2 emissions to the tune of 80%. So I think as we look at energy, it is also important to look at the transportation and aviation being a large part of it for sustainability. And these are some of the things we are doing on our part.
Well, here's to a cleaner future. It's not a problem that our next few generations will have to face. We have to deal with it in the here and now. So we really can't kick the can down the road anymore. Thank you so much, Mr. Mahesh, for joining us.
Thanks a lot. Pleasure, and thanks to the Times Group for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Palashikar.